All right, today we're going to show you what you need to do to catch broots like this in the high country in the fall. Brookies have some very specific strategies and we're going to talk about them.
Dude, that's a big brown, bro.
Okay guys, we are on an epic adventure today. It is fall, as you might be able to tell by the color of these leaves. And we're in the high country, which you can tell because I'm sort of out of breath after hiking up a hill. And even it wasn't that far, I'm still out of breath. I've got my gear and I got my rod. Today we're fishing a stillwater, targeting large brookies. And the goal today is to talk about some strategies because I feel that especially brook trout in the fall, they get a little weird. And so there's some things that you can do that will help increase your chances of success. So Lance is here and Spencer, we're just gonna be fishing this lake. We did bring our float tubes, decided not to take them out because we've looked at the water. It's a lot lower than we're typically seeing here at this place. And so hence the boat box that's gonna go right alongside me. And we're gonna talk about some things and we're gonna give you some techniques and strategies that will help you find the brookies as well as catch them. What I've got, I've just got a 6-weight 10-foot rod. This is a Sage R8. There are lots of other rods, just so you know, that are in that 10-foot 6 that, you know, are not gonna be as expensive as this guy, and many of them are excellent. I've got my favorite reel. This is an Able Via, that's a brook trout flavor. Again, don't need this. You do any reel, it's gonna work. We're gonna start out with some different lines. I'm gonna start out with a midge tip. Lance and Spencer are gonna start out with floating lines and either a naked technique or maybe indicators. We're still gonna see how that pans out. But we're gonna talk about some very specific strategies that we came to this lake to kind of show. And I would recommend waiting until the last tip because it's one that I think holds true almost anywhere you find brookies, especially in the fall though. And some other strategies that can help you find and catch these fish. Anyway, come along, we're gonna catch some fish hopefully, and if we're lucky, we may get a large sized big brookie. So who knows, we'll see.
And next thing you know, it's, after 1 a.m. and you're like, you know what, I should go to bed. I gotta be awake in just a couple hours here. There he is. Oh, get out of those weeds, you devil, thank you. It's not into the net yet, but it's a good looking fish for sure. It's not really long, but it's pretty tall. He's digging hard, I can tell you that, and it doesn't feel good on a tendonitis arm. Cut it. Would you have scissors? Ooh, look at the head on that guy. All right, there's a beautiful brookie. Fall colors. Look at the flanks on those fins. Amazing fish. The first strategy to catching fish like that is when you're on these high altitude lakes, you got to find a little bit of depth. And then you got to figure out ways to get flies at depth and keep them there as long as possible. So there's a few strategies for that. From the shore like this, we don't need sinking lines. We need a floating line, either naked or with an indicator, or we can use a midge tip. All those are working already today. Second part of this tip is to find holes in the weeds, find depth, find depressions in the rocks. You want to find a little bit of depth because that's where these fish are going to hide. We have late season weed growth you can see here behind me, almost to the surface. Even if they're in this, you're not going to catch them in that stuff. You're going to catch them on the edges of the weeds and in the holes in the weeds and holes in the rocks and depths that way. So find some holes, find some depth, keep your flies there as long as possible, and you're going to catch some fish. All right, check out this fish. That's the biggest brookie I've caught so far this year. We're on a lake that is high altitude. Man, that's a slab. Ooh. It is low. So my next tip for you is, in low water conditions, you want to look for you want to think about two things. Number one, in all lake situations with trout, you want a little chop like this. You do not want flat, calm conditions. We say that all the time. People come in the shop and they say, oh, I was on Lake X and the conditions were perfect. It was beautiful. It was sunny. There was no wind and the fishing was terrible. And you're like, yeah, that's absolute death. That's the worst conditions. So you want a little chop. My point in telling you this is if you're on one part of the lake and there's no chop and you can go walk to another part of the lake, or motor if you have a boat or whatever to another part of the lake that has texture to the surface, chase that texture. It will improve your fishing. The other thought is on this particular lake, we've been here before. When it's higher, we've often fished this from float tubes. We actually brought tubes today, but when we arrived, it's lower than we've ever seen it. And we thought the float tubes might just spook the fish. There's not very many places to catch them. We're finding them in little holes in the weeds. And with a couple of bad flips with the flippers, with your fins, you're going to be in the holes and scaring all these fish before you have a chance at catching them. So 2 things. Don't scare fish you could catch with your tube or your boat or whatever. And look for texture because the fish will be less prone to spooking with a little texture to the surface of the water.
Now he knows he's hooked. Oh, that's a little deeper than I thought right there.
Come on, fish, buddy.
That's a good fish.
Okay, for our final tip, and I save this one for last because this is one I don't think a lot of people will think about, but if you've done any studying on brook trout, you'll know this guy who's squirrely as all get out because he's so dang tall. I'm gonna handle him with care, but fish like this, a thick boy. We are dealing with a sunny day here. Sun's coming this way, and to be cognizant of an area where we've got some boulders beneath the surface, the fish will tend to hang kind of in the shadows. Like if they have to choose, they're not going to sit in full sun, they're just going to hang back in the shadow. So what I do is if you're looking and you can't even see the fish because it's dark, but focus on some of the, look for boulders or a series of ledges. They associate to structure extremely well, especially in the fall where they're kind of hunkering down. But watch for the direction of the sun and kind of aim your casts and your strategies where you can on either drop-offs that have the sun on the opposite side or the same side, or rocks that have the sun casting a shadow. And this guy, for instance, I was just casting at some boulders and look at that fatty. And I was just pulling it to the shade side of the boulders, and right on the bottom he ate my leech. This is a game changer, balanced game changer, blank saver, not game changer, blank saver. And they've been on the leeches. The poacher's been phenomenal. But anyway, so these are some tips that I hope will help you go out and catch some dudes like this. We're going to get him back in the water. But anyway, hopefully these have helped. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comments. Check us out at flyfishfood.com. Peace out.